Hey, welcome to the channel. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about diagnostic and diagnostic fee and why it's so important. So hang tight. Alrighty, so welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. We run a small engine repair business here. And one of the things that I figured out early on was if you don't charge a diagnostic fee, all your customers are going to find these things along the roadside and bring them to you to see if they've got a winner to take and flip or use for themselves. You could spend all day long doing this. And then if you're doing this, then you're not making money in the shop working on something that is profitable, right? So that's why it's so important to charge a diagnostic fee. What you charge is totally up to you. I charge 45 bucks, and that is just to say yay or nay on it. Now, when it comes to yay or nay, if the saw is worth fixing, and I can fix it for a little over an hour total billing time, I swap it over and I go to hourly instead of the diagnostic. I don't charge both. If one is non-repairable or lacks compression, it's not worth putting money into, then they're going to get hit with 45 bucks. Because that'll stop a lot of the crap coming into your shop that's taking up a better part of your day. You're here to make money too, right? So we've got two saws from the same home. This one here is a Husqvarna, and he said that it runs, but he says it doesn't cut really good and it runs kind of rough. I don't know if you can notice it from where you're at, but the first thing you notice is the chain is on backwards. I don't know how he expected to cut with his chain on backwards. Maybe that's to keep the chain longer, without wearing out, but you don't cut good when you put it on backwards. So that's the first thing. Just take a mental note, take a look at it and see what you see. What are the obvious things? And that chain was one of them, but everything else looks like it's pretty decent. So let's start with this saw. What we want to do is we want to check for compression, fire, and then go from there. So get this cover off. That decompression, there we go. These do have decompression on them, so you want to make sure that you check the decompression is off before you do a compression check on it. If you don't, it's not going to give you a true reading. See, all you need for this is, I have this, they came from Harbor Freight, and they cover all the sizes for sockets, where they come extensions, they come with the bent ones for the harder to reach. It's a nice little set. I don't get paid by Harbor Freight. You want a good compression tester, and you want a good spark tester. Those are the three tools that you're going to want to have. So let's go with compression first. That's reading 127. Now, if the decompression button is in, and you go to do a compression test on it, $74. So you want to make sure the decompression is out when you're doing a compression check on the engine. So this should run. Next thing is fire. Oh, getting old. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this end, stick it right in the boot, and then this end, stick it right on the spark plug. And let's see, that shuts it down, so it should be all set. It's got fire. Now, when I say it's got fire, we've got fire coming out of the coil through here. It's not saying that this spark plug is good. And I'll tell you right now, the first thing I do when they come in, and I know, Jason, you're going to comment on this, change the plug. For what they cost. The one thing I try not to have in my shop is redos. You can see it's kind of built up a little bit with carbon, kind of black soot, so it's probably been running kind of rich for the mixture. Alright, so now we know we got compression, we got fire, and we got a new plug in it. What's the next thing? Fuel. You could take the sniff test on it, but here's my line of logic. I don't know if this will work for you or not. Is I have had too many customers tell me, oh, it's fresh fuel, I just got it yesterday, and it's been sitting in the garage all winter long. It's not usually as bad of a problem with the mixed gas for the two-stroke, but still, you can get water in there. And I don't care what kind of fire your plug has got, it's not going to run on water. So what we're going to end up doing, that's nasty looking. That's actually got rust and sawdust in it. I keep fresh mixed stuff here for the shop, so don't need a lot. That. The other thing you want to check is the air filter. And honestly, that doesn't look too bad. We'll blow it out before it goes back, but that. Tip it down. Gonna take a minute to get the fuel up here. There we go. That saw there, we'll blow the filter out on that a little bit. Change the chain so it's going the right direction. And the customer will be happy that they've got a good running saw. Set that one down. Now we've got a 310. And with these, this is the air filter off from it, by the way. Garbage. Doesn't have a cover for it because they can't find it. But I didn't know if you guys realized that with steel, they have a summer and a winter when you put it in here for the air. And the summer is just all perforated squares, so it allows the air in. But when cold weather and you're working out in the cold, turn it around and have it go the other direction so that it's not sucking in cold air. It'll make your saw run a lot better. So we're going to do the same thing with this girl. Just figure out a system that works best for you. I always start with compression first, because if I don't have compression, everything else that I do afterwards is for naught. It's just wasting my time. So I need to know that I've got at least enough compression for this engine to run. This hasn't run in 10 years, he told me. By the way, I just drained the gas too, but we're doing compression right now. £127. Really good. You can't beat these old saws, the 310s. I'm going to do the same thing. I took out a plug, could be okay, but to be on the safe side, so I don't have any redos, I'm throwing a brand new plug. And one of the things that I get asked are, what are the common plugs to stock? Now for most of your chainsaws, we're running the RCJ6Y Champions. That's a pretty common plug, and I buy them by the case. Just depends on how many you do a year. If you're not doing a lot of chainsaws, I wouldn't say get loaded up on them. Buy a box of 4 or whatever. And so what do I do with the old spark plugs? Toss them into a container with all the other old spark plugs. Next thing we're going to check for is fire. That there. That there. Yep, she's got fire. Next thing, fuel. I drained the fuel out of it already. It was pretty ugly looking. With me putting my own fuel in it, I know exactly how old it is, and we also put PRI-G in it as well as an additive. Alright, so everything's going to work the way it's supposed to. That's choke, I think. Missing the whole cover. Come on, girl. She will run. Now, what do I do with these when it comes to diagnostic? Because I've been telling you $45 per unit to be diagnosed, right? Yes and no. If it's something that I can fix and have it cost less than an hour, hour and a half, plus parts, fuel, whatever, air filters, then I go hourly on it. And I drop the diagnostic rate out. I don't believe in double charging a customer for doing a diagnostic and you got it running. This here, get an air breather on it, take and fine tune the jets. The high speed needs a little bit of adjustment. Get a new cover for it, and that customer is going to be happy. That one, turn the chain around on it, adjust the jets high and low, and the customers are going to be thrilled that that cuts now and runs good. Both of them came in with shitty looking fuel. Sorry for the language. Don't trust your customer. And I've seen these old codgers come in here like me and have a metal can that they've had for 50 years and they've got gas in it and you've got rust and paint and everything else on the inside that's loose floating. But if you could see how much dirt and sawdust is in this container. And a lot of that comes from when you're in the woods and you're cutting firewood or falling trees, what have you. In my stuff that I have with my wedges, I also have a thick bristle paintbrush. And that's what I use to clean all the way around this, both my oil and my fuel. Because I don't need sawdust getting into the oiler and plugging that up, or I don't need sawdust clogging up the jets and stuff on the carburetor. So on that note, if you have any questions, pop it in the comments. Again, this is a learning channel. Nobody is an expert. All we can do is just do our best and pass on the knowledge to the next generation. Or to you guys that are retiring and you're looking for a side way to make a few extra bucks. This is the way to do it. But there's a right way and a wrong way. And what I'm trying to teach you guys with 800 plus videos is how to do it the right way financially, business sense, and repairs. There's a lot of videos out there that do repairs. I probably 10 times good as me, right? But I'm going to show you the real thing. These are filthy and dirty. This is just the way they came in. And I've got gas, everything else all over my hands from dealing with these. Most of the videos that I see, the thing is like cherry. It's never been touched. It's brand new chain and everything is clean. That's not the real world, folks. This is. So thanks so much for watching and subscribe if you haven't already. And again, thank you so much for supporting the channel.